Hello, everyone. Give me just 1 second. We're gonna go live. I gotta get Booker in here. Just a minute. I have to just get him some information real quick. Um, so just give me a second. Thank you so much for your patience. I will. We're gonna be talking soon, soon, soon. Sorry about this. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Hey, 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 happy Monday. I know I'm usually coming to you guys on a Friday, but today this is a special guest for us. We're talking to Booker T. Mattison. We're going to talk a little bit about some of his journey, but he is actually the director for the movie The Sound of Christmas, um, which is uh, based on Tiffany Warren's replacement wife. So I'm excited about seeing that. And so just give me a second. I'm going to bring him right in the room here, guys. Hold on.
How are you?
I am doing well. Oh my goodness. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me. I am super excited to talk to you. You are a man of many talents.
Thank you. I'm just as excited to speak to you. So thank you for having me on. I'm excited to have a
Yeah.
rigorous chat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So obviously, I got many, many questions, but I know we won't be able to get to all of them. But you have done so much. You've just done a lot, you know. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. We won't spend a whole lot of time on it, and then we're going to get to this movie that we're doing. Because you listen, I'm from the book world, and we love our books to film.
Yes, indeed.
So good evening, good evening. Hello, Louise. Happy Tips Place, Tiffany. Hello, Antoinette. Guys, if you are just joining, you're at the book bar and we are talking to Booker T. Mastersons. We are talking to him about his journey and his upcoming project, which I'm sure you all are super excited about it. So without further ado, let's just get to this. So we're gonna turn it over to you. We're
You're
gonna
turning
have
over to
you.
me. I thought I was going to be asking questions.
Oh, you're gonna answer.
No, I
Yeah.
mean answering. I thought I was going to be answering
Oh,
questions.
you're gonna be answering some questions. Trust me.
Okay.
But we want to just at least give you a little bit of time to tell everybody about you.
I could do the human beatbox.
Hey, if
I'm
that's part of you, which it is, come
I'm
on
joking.
with it.
No, I'm joking. Those who know, but no, I wouldn't do that on here. I'm Booker T. Madison. I have 5 full-time jobs.
He's right.
There it is. 5. Filmmaker, author, professor, husband, and father. 5 full-time jobs. I'm a storyteller. I love language and words. And I'm excited about The Sound of Christmas. We set out to make a modern Christmas classic. We certainly hope that we achieve that goal. And I'm excited for those, once you watch it, to respond. Let us know what you think about it. It's one thing to watch it, and I'm just as interested in what you think about it after you give it a look. Thanksgiving Day, November
I
24th,
know.
The Sound of Christmas.
Yeah, we are excited as well. So let me just say, so my I learned about you first because you did a part in Iris Boland's Heart Series movie.
Yes, yes, that was great.
So for
That was
those
so
who have
much fun.
seen that,
That was so much fun.
hi there, Brenda Woodbury, Iris. I'm just gonna say hello to a few
Oh,
people.
Iris is in the
Over.
room.
Oh yeah, she's in the room here.
What's
So
happening,
here,
Iris? So
yeah,
am
we
I
got
able to see? Am I able to see the people's
the
name?
comments. You should be
Yeah.
able to.
Where would I
Yeah, you
see
should
that?
be able to.
Oh,
And I'll
comment.
bring
Okay,
I'll
there
bring
you
them
go.
up.
Okay, I see it now.
Yeah.
Oh, Iris, what's happening? Brenda, what's happening?
So yeah, so we that's where I first learned about you, and I'm sure all of Iris's followers, those ones who have seen, the Heart series many times, they know you. or
That's
at
awesome.
least now they will know you,
Yeah,
right?
that was so much fun. Yeah, shout
Yeah.
out to Iris. She put that together. We met at I forget Brenda. We met at it was a book. Was that your book conference, Iris, in Richmond? I forget what the conference was, but we met there, and I was talking about adaptations. You know,
Mhm.
that's actually how Tiffany O'Warren and I met, the author of The Replacement Wife, who the movie was adapted from.
Mhm.
Met her at so I was talking about adaptation, and Iris took it and ran with it, and blew up. And we all know what she's accomplished now, not just with the books, but as far as making, taking that content and going from book to screen. She
Yeah.
did it. She did it. I'm there speaking about it. She takes the vision and runs with it and makes it plain before me.
Wow.
She did her thing, and she knows the story. I'm so incredibly proud of
Yeah.
her. That was incredible.
Yeah, well, that's what our Iris is usually known for, taking it and run with it, and she usually does well. Hey, Shay. So okay, so that's where I first kind of you got in my crosshairs was from that. But prior to that, you've done some amazing things. Like you said, you're an author, and one of the books that I'm a little bit familiar with is the Unsigned Hype.
Unsigned Hype. Yeah, that's right. That's my debut novel. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I kind of went after reading the book, which was a great book. By the way, it had a lot of depth to it, and I noticed that there was a couple of things about family. I love how you made like this urban kind of story, but you didn't make it urban. You made it like really real that most people could identify with. But it was big on family, um and it's big on inspiration like faith and those kind of things like that. But I remember after reading the book, I almost thought, and I never got a chance to ask you, but always thought that that book was really loosely based on yourself.
I'll say this because I often would get that question. And though the book was not autobiographical, I did borrow very liberally from my own life, and it was a combination of Brother Chuck, what's happening?
Mhm.
It was a combination of my pursuit as pursuing a rap career, and
Mhm.
I had befriended Frankie Cutlass, and for those who know, shake what your mama gave ya.
Oh
Where
yeah,
you
yeah,
go, oh. So I met Frankie Cutlass, and we had become friends, and he told me these crazy stories about him coming up. So I combined really those two trajectories, and yeah, a lot of the names and places where it's set in Mount Vernon, which is where I was born. The Mr. Lord is a public school teacher. Uh,
yeah.
75 in Harlem, where my father was a public school teacher. So yeah, so many things. It wasn't. I did borrow very, very liberally from my life. So
Hmm.
for those who know me and they read the book. Oh, they know the names and the places, and it's much fun for the readers when they actually know me. But I'm glad it resonates even for those readers who don't.
Yeah,
And
yeah, no,
by reading it, they can get to know many aspects of me in my life.
yeah. And I just after learning that that you did have this rap career, and a lot of the music, and I'm assuming that you took like a lot of your things that you do, it comes from the music that you had, because I remember saying to myself, because I'm a reader, and music is maybe second for me. But I remember saying, "Oh, I can relate this to a book, right? This music to the book, because the lyrics was like what I think I wrote this down. Like it was the beat was like the cover of the book, but
Mm.
the lyrics was the story of the book. So
Uh-huh.
I always try to find
That's,
something to the
that's
book.
bars. That's bars right there. You need to write that down and put it into a spoken word poem
I
and,
don't know about
and
that. I'm gonna leave
perform
that
it.
to you. I'm gonna
That
leave
that
that
could
up to
be
you.
that could be your opening. You perform it. You put a beat underneath it, and that's your new opening for the Midnight Eight book bar. It's like you rock it, and it's like, yeah, everyone wants to be on your show because you have this original drop to open.
Well, we'll work on that, right? We'll work on that. Yeah, and Chuck, yeah, I really wasn't going to forget about Snitch there too. So we wanted to talk about that too, because like I said, the two books were a lot about family. it was a lot about decisions, having the faith, to move on. So those are two things that I know that I got out of the two books, right?
Right. Hmm.
And then we I'm gonna kind of go back and forth a little bit. And then I noticed that with this movie, that that you're a part of here, The Sound of Christmas, is also the same thing. So my question to you is that when you set out to do projects, whether it be writing or singing or with these movies, is family, faith, and those kind of things like that, are they key elements that you need?
I would say yes, but I would also have to admit that God's sovereignty plays a role in it also.
Absolutely.
Yeah, those are certainly themes that resonate with me. Those are themes that show up in my work, and I guess one of the reasons why the partnership with Tiffany and myself is because we have a similar worldview.
Hmm.
So if you look at the story in The Sound of Christmas, it's it's inspirational, and there are faith
Yeah.
elements,
Hmm.
and at the same time, it thematically it's raw and real
Hmm.
and powerful. So when you marry those two, the authenticity that people don't normally associate with an inspirational story, the grittiness, the realness. A story I like to tell about reading the novel The Replacement Wife, which The Sound of Christmas was based on. I was reading and I'm laughing hilariously. And my wife is like, "Are you reading? You still reading the book?" Because of how hard I was laughing. And I
Hmm.
say this, and it's 100% true. It's the funniest novel I've ever read. And at the same time, it deals with things with immense gravity, loss,
Hmm.
cancer, which it's cancer I don't know anyone, that cancer hasn't touched.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So you're laughing, but then you're dealing with these very serious issues. And one of the major themes of the movie is, just because you're suffering or dealing with loss or pain or disappointment
Hmm.
doesn't mean that you can't have a Merry Christmas. The
Hmm.
yeah, he sent me a king, which is the finale song of the film. It says, grace will come on Christmas Day. Who doesn't need grace? Well, we need grace every day, but imagine how
Right.
special grace is on Christmas Day, the day that we celebrate
Hmm.
birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Whether that he was actually born in December 25th or January 1st, the
Hmm.
point is he was born. So,
Right.
so, so how much more special the grace on the day that the giver of grace and the inventor of grace, that we celebrate the birth. Isn't
Right.
that amazing?
Come on, somebody. Yes. Let's tell
And,
them.
and
Tell
then
them.
Neo, and
Tell them.
then Neo is singing it. And
Yeah.
Soraya, it's a duet, and it's insane. And the song was written and produced by Jonathan McReynolds. It's like it's it's a slam dunk. Grace will come on Christmas Day. So going back to the question as far as when I'm the intentionality of projects that I choose, and yes, those elements that you pointed out, faith and family, are very important to me. But connecting with an individual like
Hmm.
Tiffany, and then the content, and it resonates with you. We had a conversation today, and we were talking about different projects that we were either working on or trying
Hmm.
get made. And uh, me, I'm a writer and a director and an author, and there's stories, unsigned hype and snitch are two that I want to adapt into film and or television, and it hasn't happened. So I'm like, hey, I want to tell my own stories. And then I said, this story, this is I'm as in love with this story as I am with one that I wrote. Why? Because of the synergy
Hmm.
with the worldview I'm going to make sure I'm in the lens, with the synergy with the worldview
Hmm.
of that presented in the work, and the individual who created it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
when I talk about or even think about, from the beginning, hey, we want to make a modern Christmas classic. Before you could even get to that, those elements have to be in place, a connection to the content, and you don't always know the person who created it. So
Hmm.
when you know the person who created it and they're actually a friend, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
bonus.
Yeah. So with that, when in making the movie, so how did you guys connect? I mean, did she reach out to you? Did you,
Great
you
question.
know?
Yeah, we met in 2011 when my second novel, Snitch, had come out, and
Mhm.
we were introduced by Victoria Christopher Murray, New York
Okay.
Times bestselling author Victoria Christopher Murray,
Yeah.
who is a consummate connector.
Mhm.
She does it. She's rich
Mhm.
in relationships and she shares,
Mhm.
right? So she introduced Tiffany and I. Tiffany was doing an event called the Faith and Fiction Retreat, and she'd do it at different cities around the country. It was a really cool event. So I went to the one in Ponte Vedra, I think was the first one that I went, Ponte Vedra, Florida. And then she had one in Dallas that I went to. So we met again, going back to the same story I was telling about Iris. Tiffany brought me in to talk about film adaptation,
Mhm.
right? Because I was a professor then too.
Okay, I was gonna say, where were you
Yeah,
at in your
yeah,
life?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I was a professor then too. So I'm coming in, under both as an author, but also as a filmmaker and a professor to do this workshop, which was one of the many workshops that she offered at her conference.
Okay.
So at Ponte Vedra, well, she and I met and hit it off, and her husband Brent was there, my wife Angie was there. So Tiffany and I hit it off, but then we also hit it off. Look, I'm making sure I'm in the lens, right?
We
Then,
got you.
right, then the couples hit it off,
Mhm.
right? And then we're saying, hey, we need to do something. This is back in 2011.
Mhm.
So we became, legit friends, beyond any type of working relationship.
Mhm.
Fast forward to, this is 2022. I guess it was 2020. She's
Mhm.
like, um, Booker, I'm going to pitch, The Replacement Wife as a book to film, and I want you to write and direct it. Right.
Amazing.
Yeah, but she
Mhm.
had, mind you, she had already, her book, Favorite Son, had already been adapted to a film,
Mhm. Yep.
T plus.
Mhm.
So I'm like, cool, right? So talk about faith. So we stepped out on faith. Step one was, coming up with a treatment, because as you know, you have this, 300-page book, and you're going to turn it into a 90-page script. You can't just say, hey, put the book on the screen,
Mhm.
right? You have to come up with a story, a screen story, a visual story, which a film is, right? And that starts with the treatment, which is a summary of the story. So my
Okay.
first objective was to be faithful to the material, because I'm an author myself. So unlike, say, a producer and it's, hey, it's source material, and they want to
Mhm.
develop it as they see fit, independent of the author's input. As an author myself, my first objective, well, an author who's also a friend, my first
Mhm.
objective is, I have to be faithful. I have to capture the spirit, of her voice. And the funny thing is, I'll say certain things, because once you study the voice of
Mhm.
a writer when you're doing an adaptation, you you have to. It's almost like ghostwriting, right?
Okay.
That
Yeah.
you have to capture the spirit and the voice.
Mhm.
But when you're approaching it like I'm approaching it, it's not just
Mhm.
source material. I'm going to go off and make a movie. So the first thing is, does this capture the spirit of the novel, and is the author pleased? So that's
Right.
step one, right? And then, okay, boom, that's the treatment. Here's the story that we're going to tell, the
Mhm.
visual story, the cinematic story, and then, the script. Then Megamind got involved. Shout out, oh,
Mhm.
Kareem, that's the
Hey,
homie
hey,
Kareem.
Steve.
Uh, Megamind got involved. Tressa Smallwood, and then we took off. And what happens is, the production company gets involved. Then the production company has notes, right?
Mhm.
And of course, when the network gets involved, and the network has notes, and then you have to, come together to figure out how to address and solve the issues that the notes reveal. And I was rewriting up until a week before shooting, and then boom, we created magic. So if you haven't seen the trailer, you can see the trailer on. I posted about this talk here.
Yeah.
Please watch the trailer if
Absolutely.
you haven't seen it yet. It's
Uh,
pretty
what
dope.
is one of you some of those challenges that you have as a director? One, making sure the author's voice is it comes through in the project.
Mhm.
Also casting, like how do you cast? Like, what are some key elements or key characteristics you look for, well, specific to this project that
Right.
you were looking for to cast in the movie?
Right. Well, going back to the first question, everyone, again, if everyone is not as dogged in their commitment to capturing the voice of the original creator of the content, because it has everything to do with who an individual is and how they approach not just IP, intellectual property,
Hmm.
but also what they intend to do with it. But for me, again, because the reason we wanted to work together is because, again, you're cool with somebody. You don't want to then take. I liken it to, if you're an author, you birth the baby, you carry the baby around for 40 weeks,
Hmm.
and then you birth it, all
Mm.
the labor, everything, and then you give it over to someone else to raise, right?
Yeah.
So
And I think that's hard for
that's a
most
hard
authors to do.
responsibility.
Yeah.
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 Oh, Chuck, look, Chuck was the DJ. He could have been an MC. I don't know if Chuck MC, but that's dope right there. Um, so, but again, that was just my own personal desire, because if we're working together, right, and this is we're working together on this before anyone has bought anything. No one had bought anything.
Hmm.
No checks had been cut. There was nothing. This is a
Okay.
faith thing, right? So so we're working on this independent of, like, hey, let me just go and acquire the IP and then go off and do my thing. Like some producer who doesn't know Tiffany, for example,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Right.
it's like, hey, I love the book and I want to make it into a movie. And how I do that is how I do that. Because whenever you buy, so what you have in a book, which you all know this, is you have the copyright, but then you also have film and television rights. That's bound up in this thing called a book.
Hmm.
So the author controls copyright. Authors who are on here, I hope you control your copyright. I know some authors who don't. I'm shocked. I'm like, really? You don't control your copyright? Wow. Okay. Control your copyright.
Y'all
Um,
listen up. Nuggets
yeah,
here.
that's
Nuggets. Nuggets.
100%. Don't, yes, you want to exploit this in other mediums. That's why you create the content. Well, you create it for the love, but then you also do want to maximize your earning potential with it. But then you have those film and television rights. So once an entity come and purchases those film and television rights, they're not buying the copyright. The book lives on, and they don't change your book at all. So this notion that, hey, Warner Brothers changed my book. Warner Brothers did not change your book. Warner Brothers bought the film and television rights to your book and made a movie. They made the movie they wanted to make. They didn't change your book.
Okay.
The
Well,
book never
that
changed.
makes sense. That makes a
The
lot of
book never
sense.
changes. The book is the book. So in this instance, it wasn't a situation where, hey, I'm going to acquire this IP and go off and make a movie. No, this is two friends who, before we even engaged in this, because again, you know, I write for a living. Tiffany writes for a living. We do things. We get paid to do it,
Hmm.
right? But to start this process, there was no entity that had cut any checks or anything. So it's like, hey, we're just going to do this. Why? Because of the power of the story, and truthfully, the power of the relationship too. You're not going to do that, with someone you don't know. So again, that's why the approach is different as far as my commitment to capturing the voice, because we're working on this. Everything that I wrote, I sent it to Tiffany, and they're like, all right, you cool? What do you think? You cool with that? Right?
Hmm.
So really, she was functioning as an EP, but it wasn't even an EP thing, because it wasn't, those roles hadn't even been established yet. It was, she's the author, right? I want to capture the spirit of this story
Right.
in her voice, right?
Hmm.
Here's the treatment, here's the story, right? And then you write the script. Script is written. There's still, there's still no one there's no entities cutting checks and, hey, this is it. No, this is still a faith thing, right? Okay, so
Hmm.
then, Megamind, boom, the production company, boom, now they're involved, right? And then boom, the next step, the network gets involved. But the script was done before any of that happened,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That's where the faith part comes in. So my approach was very, very different than, even if you could acquire some an intellectual property. Let's say you read a short story that you loved, so okay, let's make it really cool. A local high school student, right?
Hmm.
You go to a reading or something, a performance at school, and this you're so moved by this short story that she reads that you acquire it and you want to develop it into a film,
Hmm.
right? Okay, you acquire that. You can develop that IP. You hire a screenwriter and you develop it. You're giving the screenwriter notes when you read it, right? The rest
Hmm.
is happening. So, but again, that's a very different relationship than how this project came to be. So
Gotcha.
yeah, so that's why. And again, I wouldn't have committed to doing it if it wouldn't have been if there wouldn't have been again the synergy with the worldview,
Hmm.
right, presented in the work, and also the individual as well.
Right. So let's go back to you now. So I mentioned before that you are a man of many talents.
Hmm.
So you mentioned you're an author, you're a professor, you film writer, a producer, all of those things. And so I guess personally, for you, so one would look at that, say, as you were growing up and you acquired it all, and a rapper too, because you're gonna own that. You got to own that,
Yeah,
right?
look, I'm an ex-rapper because I'm not nice anymore. You know, my lungs are retired. I can't spit a hot 16 if you if you try to
But
force.
but when you were doing that, I mean, as people are
Oh,
looking
I
at
was
you,
nice back in the day. I was nice back in the day.
okay,
That's
do
way
you have
back.
anything we can listen to?
The interesting thing is the only evidence that I can get my hands on is Exit 13. If you go to my Vimeo page,
Hmm.
vimeo.com/Booker T Mattison Mattison, the
Hmm.
film Exit 13, which is actually it's a film that I made in film school in 1996.
Hmm.
But in that film, because back again, when I went to film school, I went to film school not just to become a filmmaker, but also to get signed. I was a rapper. I was seriously pursuing a rap career, both in MC. I made beats, and again, I was nice with human beatbox. I can still human beatbox, but I'm not gonna do
So like, so if someone's watching your journey, if they're sitting on the tree
Yeah, Exit
watching the,
13. Watch that, and you'll hear because the original hip hop and the rhymes in that. My brother and I, Eddie,
hmm
talking about this. We had a group, and so the song is one of our songs. So that's the evidence I have. That's the only evidence I have that I was in fact a rapper. My students get a kick out of it because like, oh, the old bald guy said he used to rap. Right? Sure, you
right.
used to
So
rap, Professor
so
Madison.
if I'm sitting on a tree and I'm watching you, so I think you were a young adult when you were doing the rapping, and so now you're going through these things. You're going to school, you
Yep.
know, and I'm assuming when you were like a teenager doing all these things, you were mostly, just concerned about the rapping, and then you kind of went into all of these other things when you were going to school. So one would watch, and say, what is he doing? Does he really know what he's doing, right? But through your life, you picked up all of these things. And so my question to you is that with all the hats that what you wear, with all the experiences that you've had to get you to this point, what share with us how and why each one of these make you uniquely you.
Are you going to toss each one at me, or you want me to
Yeah,
pick?
let's start with the rapping, and then where did you go from rapping?
Sure,
Did you go from rapping
sure.
to being an author, or
Yeah,
then into film?
let me address the rapping. That's a great
Okay.
question. And some may anticipate that I'm going to go in the past to answer this question, but I'm actually not.
Okay, no, that's fine.
So KRS-One, who was when South Bronx came out in 1986, it's one of the hottest hip hop songs ever. Just blew my mind. South Bronx. If there's anyone who's 50 something on here, they know the song. Okay, so KRS-One, he had a lyric. He said rap is something you do, hip hop is something you live. So I
Okay.
don't rap anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still hip hop. And
Okay.
some who, because when you say that people are looking at me doing these various things, saying, does he know what he's doing? The interesting thing about me is like whatever it was that I was doing, I had a community with that supported me and actually thought, hey, he's the next, whatever it was that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I have friends. I mean, it's amazing, the friends that I know. So I don't rap anymore, but hip hop, I am still hip hop because hip hop it inspires and infuses how I look at life, how I move my physical body, how I
Mm-hmm.
use the English language, how I listen and intuit what other people say. So I am still hip hop, and anyone who's from the hip hop generation, people my age and 10 years younger and 10 years older, I'm 52.
Mm-hmm.
They know. I mean, when hip hop came out, it changed. It changed, in particular, young African American men, because what if you think about Motown and the classic R&B, even the race records before that, the A&R, the presentation of these African American males was in suits, very safe and clean and refined. But what did hip hop do?
Mm-hmm.
These brothers came out and they looked like we look whenever we were the way we dressed at the time. So they presented a culture that wasn't, uh, I guess, you can put an edge up on it. You know what I'm saying? You put an edge up on the culture, and now you suit it up, and the tie. And again, hey, I love that. The four tops, all of them. They didn't have, they didn't want rocking Tims, and Fila's and Kango hats and sheepskin coats, right? So,
Yeah.
so I am hip hop, and there's many like me who have PhDs, GEDs. They know what I'm talking about. They're hip hop too. They don't rap or look like rappers, as it were, but you're still hip hop.
Okay. 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 And so now, so you're an author. So you're writing these stories, and so and then into let's go. So how did it happen? So you're an author, then you went to do you become a professor and then the directing, or how did that go?
Well, and so with the author question, I will go back into the past. So
Hmm.
I started writing my first novel when I was 9, though I didn't know that I was writing a novel.
Okay.
There was an organization called the Institute for Children's Literature, and I Googled it a few years ago, and it was still existed. The Institute for Children's Literature, and what is it, Reader's Digest? I don't know. I saw it probably in like Reader's Digest or something like that, and I submitted what I had written,
Hmm.
and it was in Connecticut, as a matter of fact. So they actually accepted. I guess it was some kind of a writing program or something.
Okay.
And when I got the letter, because I didn't tell my parents about this, I was actually scared. I thought I'd done something wrong, so I didn't, do anything with it. But so I'm 9 years old writing a story, and it was about a kid with special needs who was a swimmer. Which is
Mm.
amazing. Like, why was how did I even come up with that? And I'm thinking about that now, like, wow, that's actually a story I might need to revisit. I
Yeah,
don't
you're right.
I don't remember the whole story, but I do remember that it was a special needs swimmer.
Okay.
And like the challenges and some of the discrimination he faced.
Hmm.
Like, I'm thinking about that now, even now answering the question. It's like, wow, 9 years old, I'm writing about that. So I started writing my first novel at 9. I didn't know that I was writing a novel.
Okay.
Okay. And that came from me being a storyteller. And I know you're going to ask me about being a director or filmmaker, so I'm not going to give away that part.
Hmm.
But that's tied into, by the time I was writing this novel at 9, I had already been engaging in world building and storytelling for years prior, and I'll explain that
Wow.
when we get to the directing slash film part.
Okay. 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 And so now you are a professor. Let's go
Mhm.
to the professor.
Yep.
And what is that like, man? Like, that's gotta be like
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I teach directing, screenwriting, and a class called Production Practicum, which is essentially the thesis class
Hmm.
at the University of Georgia in Athens. Go Dogs! We were ranked #1 in the country, the defending national champions in football. So it's a lot of fun. So I teach the advanced production courses in the Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication. My specific department is Entertainment and Media Studies.
Okay.
So in EMST, short for Entertainment and Media Studies, all of our students are juniors and seniors. So you have to apply and you get into the University of Georgia, and then you apply to get into Entertainment and Media Studies. So we get very, very smart students, right? And by the time I get them, they're seniors. They're either in the fall of their senior year or the spring of their senior year, because directing and screenwriting and production practicum are some of the advanced courses.
Mm.
So, in the directing class, for example, my students are in production right now.
Okay.
And they, in 16 weeks, have to direct a 3 to 5 minute narrative film. So some of the students have never directed before. Many, this is the most involved production that they'll do. But in 16 weeks, they go from nothing to something. And many of the films that come out of these my directing classes have won awards. And for me, when one of my students are successful, I'm
Hmm.
successful.
Well,
So
yeah.
it's a lot of fun. I'm actually developing and training directors, screenwriters, and that's the course that I teach. But many of the students in my class, they may take a screenwriting class. They don't want to work as a screenwriter, or they take the directing class. They don't want to work as a director. So in addition to learning how to write a script in the class, which you will do, or you write a feature length script in the 16 weeks for screenwriting and the 3 to 5 minute narrative and directing, you're also there are transferable skills that you learn that will help you if you decide to be, go to law school and become an entertainment attorney or become a producer or a development executive.
Oh, okay.
Take directing, for example.
Hmm.
In the first at 16 in the first 8 weeks of this 16-week class, people, when they think of a directing class, typically think of the technical concerns involved with directing, and that's not my approach. For the first 8 weeks, we're learning leadership, communication,
Hmm.
how to cast and run audition, how to communicate with actors to get performances. The saying goes, if you cast well, 80% of your job is done as a director. It's so true. Yet most of the directing classes that I've taken and that I'm familiar with spend precious little time on casting. Right. So for someone who doesn't want to, let's say someone, they take the directing class, but they want to be a showrunner for an episodic television show.
Hmm.
They're going to be prepared because they know their way around the set. They know how to cast, right? They
Hmm.
know how to give direction, because when you're a writer for television, you write an episode, they may send you the set. And unlike a narrative film where, the director is the only one who talks to the actors, the producers in television and EPs, they're
Hmm.
writers. They're literally running the show. That's why they're called, the EP is called the main writer, it's called the showrunner, the head writer.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's exciting to train students, and a couple have gone on to make feature length films, college Emmys. Uh, a few are professors. So just seeing, because I've been a full time professor now for 12 years, and I started teaching as an adjunct at Brooklyn College and College of New Rochelle when I was still in New York. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, I've been doing it for quite a while. It's a lot of fun, molding and shaping and developing and influencing minds who will go on and then create stories that have an impact on humanity.
Mhm. Okay, I'm just going to take a moment to welcome some of the ones that have come in while we were talking. So if you just tuning in, you're at the Book Bar, and we are talking to Booker T. Mattison, and he is dropping nuggets, y'all. So if you here, stick around. You might be able to get something, some nuggets out of here. But you know what, though, too, I as I'm listening to you, I feel like this is like some kind of lecture that you could tell at a career fair or something like that, because it's just enriched with knowledge. Now let me ask you this. So you're this professor, and now you just at the ending of directing this film. How do you balance all of that? Because I'm assuming you're hands on with everything, right?
When you
uh
say hands on, what do you mean? I mean,
like
what profession in the
in the
author,
directing. So when
director?
you were directing the film, like the casting, how much input did you have? Like all the aspects of that, how much
Sure,
input did you
sure, sure, sure. Well, specifically with casting with The Sound of Christmas, it was a combination. So you had the producers, Yanley Artie, shout out to Yanley.
have?
Make sure my fingers in the frame.
Mhm.
uh, Ron Robinson, two of the producers, the principals, meaning the I don't like to say main characters because they're all main
Right,
characters.
right. Yeah, I
The
know what you
leads, the
mean.
leads, the leads, Neo, Soraya, Drea, Michelle. Shout out to Yanley and Ron for working their magic with that. And the casting director, George Pierre, if it's a movie or a TV show with an African American cast, George Pierre, probably when in the credits you're going to see his name as a casting director. So
Okay,
George knows everyone and can find talent that no one else has discovered. Uh, Blake James is one of them.
okay, okay.
And Blake is gonna he plays the son. If you've seen the trailer, he's the son in the trailer. He
Mhm.
plays Neo's son. Of the characters Quentin. So George would send the self tapes, and what self tapes are, the sides are the sections of the script that the actors will read uh, on an audition on camera.
Mhm.
So they will do these self tapes. So you actors who are doing this, who are really doing it, they'll have a little backdrop in their house, and they set it up, and then they turn their lights on. They do That's how they audition. You're not always going in nowadays.
Yeah, yeah.
So so he would send self tapes, and then I would see the performances. Oh wow, okay, I like her, I like him. So Roxanne T. Mims, who from Greenleaf,
Mhm.
Blake again was incredible. Jennifer Sears was incredible, and also and Tressa. One thing that Tressa does, she has auditions, so she creates opportunities for actors, writers who aren't represented. So you can be shut out, like the gatekeepers. It's like if you're not represented by an agent, or if
Mhm.
you don't have access all the time. So what she does, she was having an online audition, and
Okay.
yeah, so I'm tuning in and I'm watching. So that's how that's another aspect of where the talent came from. So it was a combination that came up with this wonderful cast that I'm really excited for people to see.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see it as well. And it's coming like right in the heart of the season, and definitely when we need something that we can be inspired by,
That's great.
as well. So with and when you're doing this, how are you balancing being a professor and then also directing a movie?
Sure, sure. And so Darlitra Perry played Imani in the film,
Mhm.
and she had been in which of Tressa's made Christmas movies before this one. She was in another of Tressa's. Was it a Christmas film? Nevertheless, so that's how I
Mhm.
met Darlitra Perry. She
Mhm.
did a great job as well. So how do I balance it? That's a great question. Well, as it related to the actual shoot days, we shot for 12 days in March of 2022. We shot the
Okay.
entire film in the Cascade neighborhood in Atlanta. That was Ron's vision. Shout out to Ron for that. So, so this is if the storyline is it's the story of an out of work music teacher who has to negotiate budding feelings when she takes a nanny job for a handsome billionaire,
Mhm.
and she is able to bring love and music back into their home. So if that storyline sounds familiar, Sound of Music.
Mhm.
So um, that's the inspiration for the novel. So we shot for 12 days, and because this is a modern iteration of the Sound of Music, I had locations all over Atlanta.
Mhm.
Stone Mountain, they're on a tram doing dance numbers.
Okay.
But it was not possible to do that, in 12 days. There's no way. So it was like if it's not in Cascade, it ain't happening as far as locations,
Mhm.
right? So my initial reaction is, but then it's like, well, of course, how are you gonna, this only way you're gonna get this movie made in 12 days, a feature length film in 12 days with 12 music cues. It's a musical.
Mhm.
Everything was in Cascade. So
Mhm.
we shot for those 12 days in Cascade. Now, the way that the shoot days, so 12 days, it's actually 3 weeks, so it's 5 day weeks that we do. So we had five for the one day for the first and second week, and then the two and the
Mhm.
third. So spring break fell within that 3 weeks, which is great. So for the two
Okay.
weeks that I was shooting, those other 2 weeks, I had to find substitutes to cover my classes,
Wow.
right? But here's the thing. Shout out to Jay Hamilton. He's the chair of the Entertainment and Media Studies Department, and Charles Davis, who's the dean of the Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication. The fact that they let me take off and then have a sub is cool, because they could have been like, nah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I had to find someone who, because I have friends who are very successful filmmakers and friends who are very successful academics. I don't have a lot of friends who are both, so I had to find someone who was both. They had to be actual filmmaker who actually has made films,
Uh,
and someone who could teach as well. Couldn't be either or. So I was
mhm.
able to get subs, two of which were former students, which was pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
To cover my classes. And once we were in post production, by the time we got serious into post production, the semester was over. So it was the summertime, and writing is just something that I do. I'm working on my next film project now. it's during the semester, writing. See, but writing is very different. I write wherever I can write anywhere, literally
Yeah,
anywhere.
yeah.
Directing, I have to be on set.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm always writing something. So I was writing the script, of course. I started writing the treatment at least in August of 21. Excuse me, right before the semester started, and then of course I'm writing throughout.
Mhm.
So it's really just being disciplined and balancing your time, so that everyone is getting what they need. The students, they have to get what they need.
Yeah.
Producers and the network, they have to get what they need, and the producers in the network don't care that I'm a professor, and the students, they care that I'm a filmmaker, but they still expect to get
Yeah, right.
what
Yeah. Business is business.
they're
Yeah.
paying for.
Yeah.
They're not, hey, we're your cheering section, go and make the movie, we're not going to learn anything. No, it doesn't work that way. So,
Right.
you have to be disciplined, and I compartmentalize well. So that's an administrative gift that I have, to compartmentalize. So boom, I'm in writing mode, I'm in professor mode, I'm in prep mode, I'm in research mode. And when I'm in those modes, I have to be productive and work efficiently. You have to redeem the time because the days are evil, as
Right. Well, I'm sure you have learned over the years of how to compartmentalize, because you're here, and you're here, right? So that's good, and that is actually something that is great to have. We should all have that. Should all have that thing. So, was there anything about the book when you read it that you felt you needed to change, or that just wouldn't work for the film?
those concerns were all the practicality of it all.
Hmm.
So there were storylines. You can't have in a novel. You can have tons of storylines, right? And we love every single one of them. We follow them through, and then, oh my
Right.
sequel. You can't do that in a film. In a film, you have an A story and a B story. That's it, because the audience gets confused otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing, there were storylines that had to be, that you couldn't bring out. And look, in a novel, it's always going to be more in depth than a movie as far as the characters. So even the depth of character, some of the complications, right, within those conflicts, you couldn't do it. It would have been cool, but you just you don't have
You
time.
can't do it.
The
Yeah, 'cause
number of kids, we have two kids.
mhm,
Um, so, and even the age of the kids too, because based upon what the kids were doing in the cinematic story, ages had to be adjusted, because it's like, well, someone who's 11 wouldn't do this, or right. So we
mhm,
conversation of, okay, well, this character should be that age, even the number of kids, and then it was also practically too with film, because when you're on set filming, the minors, they have to actually go to school. So, you have an on-set educator, and, those hours that they're in school,
oh, yeah,
you're
yeah,
not
yeah.
shooting. You can't shoot. So, and you have to schedule around that. So you're shooting other scenes that the kids aren't in, right, while they're at school.
Yeah, okay, and
So
that, yeah, we forget about that. I mean, you saying it, we know that they do it, like, in the movies that we see, but, talking to you, because we're close to the books and stuff, like the book world and those time frames and stuff, Iris taught us that. Well, she
yeah,
taught me that,
yeah.
because I've had an opportunity to work on the set with her, which is amazing. That's why I'm just enthralled by, all the stuff that
I
you
wanna see
do.
that episode, Iris. I've never actually seen the episode. I wanna see it. Yeah, I've never seen my performance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I haven't. I wanna see it. Yeah.
Yeah. But and then too, I it's good. The reason I asked that question
Mhm.
about and I'm glad you went into depth with it about the different things that may not be as particular to the book as in the movie, is because we're readers first.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
And
trying to think.
so
Well, again, this goes back to, again, the, for the readers who've read, for
mhm,
those who've read The Replacement Wife, I believe if they watch the movie, I don't think that they're gonna be, "Oh, man, what happened to this, that, or the other?" And let me explain why I believe that.
mhm,
Because I believe that what is captured in the film is so authentic to the story, and you're gonna be so emotionally invested, you're not even be thinking about those other things,
mhm.
right? Because we have you, boom, you're right in there. You're in the pocket,
Okay.
as it were,
Okay.
right? Like,
Yeah.
drummer. So, but that's called being faithful to the story.
Mhm.
Right? Because even if so Stephen King, apparently, this was years ago, I don't know if it's still the case. Um, what was it? Stand by Me. Uh,
Oh yeah.
that was
Mhm.
his favorite adaptation of one of his works, and I've read, and it's a short story, and I've read that. And there's going to be changes, but again, those changes are such that when you watch the cinematic story, the visual story, you don't even think about it because they captured so well what grabs you in the story in the first place. So you're emotionally invested. So of course, if you go back and look, oh yeah, 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 right. But what do we do? That experience, reading a book, any story experience, you emotionally invest in a character, and at a certain point, you become that character. That's why you're afraid when they're afraid. Don't you do that? Oh, don't do that. Oh, no, no, no.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Then you cheer when they do what? When they achieve their goal, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Piper of the Gilded Six
Oh,
bit.
and she's I was gonna bring this up.
Yeah,
Yeah, so now I did not see this adaptation, but I knew about it and I thought to myself,
that's
wow.
on my Vimeo page too. So if you go to
Yeah,
vimeo.com,
I will. I
yeah,
will.
that's on there. Exit 13, where my song is in there, where I'm MCing in there,
Yeah.
and the Gilded Six bits, that's on there too. And
But
Bird, yeah, my short film Bird. That's a rough one to be prepared. That's a gut punch. It's nine
but now
minutes,
this one
no
right
no
here.
dialogue, and it's a gut punch. Bird.
Okay, but this one right here now,
Yes.
because we all know Zora Neale Hurston,
Mhm.
right? We know her for a lot of different things. But what in wow, this was such a nice tribute to one of her works. And what inspired you to take on something like this? You know what I mean?
Okay, it was a very practical concern. So this was in 1998, mind you. So, Hollywood was very, very different in 1998 in ways beyond streaming, right?
Mhm.
So at that time, I mean, black period pieces, that was
Yeah.
like box office kryptonite. So, you didn't do, it just didn't work. So I'm like, okay, this is my graduate thesis film. I'm at NYU Film School. This is my graduate thesis film. So, like, this is the last time, that I have a realistic opportunity to do an adaptation of a black period piece, right?
Mhm.
And have complete control and do it the way I want, right? Because
Wow.
once people are cutting checks, they have veto power over your inspiration.
Mhm.
Right? Of course they do. I mean, you're the executive producer, you're the producer of the network, whatever it is. You're cutting the check, like the story we talked about, the of
Mhm.
you acquire this IP of this short story. You're going to make the movie that you think needs to be. You're the one spending the money. I mean, you may be kind of interested in what the high school student says, but it's like I have a vision for a movie that I want to make, and you're going to make that movie,
Mhm.
right? So I'm like, okay, this is my last opportunity. This is my last film as a film student. After this, boom, I'm going out into the marketplace. So I was a fan of Zora Neale Hurston because if you look at writers of the Harlem Renaissance, and she actually got heat for this because she didn't write about the struggle, right?
Mhm.
So she wrote about she was a cultural anthropologist. She went to Barnard College. She's brilliant. And she wrote about, the people that she knew, the aspects of black culture that she was interested in. So what I liked about it, because I've always been intrigued by African American stories before Brown versus Board of Education. It's intriguing to me.
Mhm.
So this story is set in 1933, and it was a love story, and it wasn't about racism, right? Was racism real in 1933? Of course it was, but we
Yeah.
also loved, we also had children, we also had side pieces, right?
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
betrayed one another, and it's not like every waking moment that a black person in America is thinking about racism. That's just not real. I mean, it's real, but that's not all you think
That's
about.
that
Oh,
and that's true. That's
so,
true.
so that gave me the opportunity to showcase an aspect of African American life that we rarely saw, because even our griots in the Harlem Renaissance, they weren't writing about that, because they wanted to write about the struggle. And kudos to them, because you need to write about that too. That's why it's great to have a diversity of stories and voices.
Mhm.
So I wanted to showcase a unique slice of African American life in 1933. It was a love story, and that's what attracted me to the story. And I'll say this, that I was the first filmmaker to adapt any of Hurston's work for film. This
Oh,
was,
wow.
how many years? This is before, Oprah did The Eyes of Watching God for, ABC. This was well, it was I shot it in '99, and it aired on Showtime in, was that 2001, I believe?
Mhm.
And I believe The Eyes of Watching God, what year did that come out? I can Google it. So the point being, it was great and an opportunity for me to tell this story, this Black period piece, that wasn't, about racism. It was about love and
Well,
betrayal.
mhm.
And the story was in the public domain. That was great for me, right, as a content creator, but sad that, the work of this genius hadn't been sufficiently preserved so that the fruit of that wasn't blessing her family for generations,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you're right about that.
I mean, she apparently, I think Alice Walker found her grave and actually gave her a headstone. How does a genius die
Yeah.
like that, and her estate isn't secure,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So again, but good for me because hey, it was
Yeah, no,
okay,
yeah, you know what? Good for us too,
right, because
because yeah, you know what I mean. Because yeah, that when I like I said, I am gonna go back and look at that because I saw about it not too long ago. I did not know about that, but then I remember seeing her name, and whenever I see her name anywhere, I'm immediately drawn to it. Like what is going on with that, but
well, let me tell you who was in that film. So that film, it stars Chad L. Coleman, who you'll know, and he's the new villain in the new Superman TV
hmm
show. But most people know him from The Wire. He played Cuddy in The
yeah,
Wire.
hmm
He
hmm
he also played Tyrese in The Walking Dead.
okay.
The one who he killed the zombies with the hammer.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. And Chad is, he's the man. But this was his first leading role, right? He had been working in shows like New York Undercover. He was working, but if that film, it was his first leading role, which is amazing. I love to say that because now he's a big star. No, he is, and I'm
Yeah,
proud of him.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, hey, I cast him in his first leading role.
Right,
You
right,
I'm trying to get to where he is, right? But
right,
so
right.
it makes me feel very proud, right? And then Takia Kima, the younger people will know her as the mother of That's So Raven.
Yep.
We know her
Mhm.
from Living
Yeah,
Color,
yeah.
which Takia is great. Wendell Pierce, who's currently on Broadway right now, but he was also Detective Bunk in The Wire, and I mean, Wendell Juilliard trained. I mean, Wendell's been working and doing this thing for years. You know, the late great Novella Nelson. Most people know Novella from the Antoine Fisher story, and she called him the N word.
Mhm.
So these were all people who I cast. This is a student film. This is a student film. This is my graduate thesis film at NYU. Why? Well, it's Zora Neale Hurston. She's a giant in the Black arts community. So I had that going for me, and also it was an NYU thesis film, and NYU has a reputation of turning out great directors, many of whom meet and work with actors who are on the come up just like them, and they become famous
Yeah.
together. Like Scorsese and Robert De Niro, Pete Chapman and Kerry Washington. I mean, myself and Chad L. Coleman, right? So it's amazing how, hey, you get together, you work together, and you grow together. Even though I'm trying to
Yeah.
grow, trying to catch Chad.
Yeah.
Um, so that's how I was able to get these name actors to be in a student film. So before COVID, I used to tell my students that go after a name actor for your student film, and they're shocked. Why? Because you'll give them an opportunity to be cast in roles that Hollywood would never cast them in.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
and actors, what actors love good stories. And you know what actors want to do? They want to play.
Right,
They
right.
love good stories and they want to play. And that was something by God's grace that I was able to create and present to them. And it's a film that it stands up. It was well reviewed in the Hollywood Reporter.
Mhm.
What do you call those things? Fruit flies flying through here. At my parents' house. So it's
The fact that you tell your students to reach for a name actor for their assignment, it reminds me of this event I just went to in October, and the theme and the legacy of that event is lifting while climbing.
mm,
And I love that because there's people who have been already down that road, and
right.
then how cool is it to reach back and say, hey, let me help you get there, or let me tell you which
Mhm.
streets not to go down. And I
Yep,
think you do that perfectly too. When you're teaching your students, or when you do anything in life, you know what I mean, because if you love it, you're passionate about it, you don't mind sharing.
absolutely,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
And but what does a tree do? it produces fruit, and then if you don't harvest the fruit, what happens? It drops to the
Yeah.
ground and dies.
Right, right, right. That's true. Yeah, that's true. Look at you dropping these nuggets over here. It has come down to our time. I really could just go on and on and on. I was hoping that Tiffany might be able to drop in and just so we can give it a shout out. But I really want to tell you, thank you again for just coming on to my show and hanging out with little old me and my
Look,
VIP.
little you, thank you for bringing me on to your show and allowing me to have a conversation,
Yeah,
with your community and introducing me to your community. That means a lot to me. So,
yeah,
there's no little old you. We're the same, right? It's a mutually beneficial relationship, and I'm
yeah.
grateful for it.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for you. Now, I want you to tell us. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you so much for
That's
hanging
my
out with
man, Chuck.
us.
That's my man.
Thank you.
Chuck is an actor and a professor. As Animal Farm, I know you all opened. Have you closed already? You all, Chuck. Uh, Yeah, so he's a professor, a
Okay.
director, an actor. He has 5 jobs just like me.
Wow.
Yeah, you should have Chuck on. He'd be a great guest too.
Hey, Joshua. That's our Nate Rains. So we changed his name.
Yeah, what's happening?
So how can we support you?
Okay,
And
well,
yeah.
the immediate way to support right now is on Thanksgiving Day, BET Plus. If you don't have the app, if you have the app, on Thanksgiving Day, BET Plus, The Sound of Christmas. If you don't have it, you can get the 7-day free trial to see The Sound of Christmas and other great programming. The Sound of Christmas is November 24th. Watch it with your family, and I don't tell people to share because they haven't seen it yet, right?
Mhm,
I'm not just out here, I love promoting. I'm not just say, oh, just share just because. No, watch it first. Okay, the show just closed.
mhm. Okay.
Watch it first, then tell me what you think about it. And if you like it, then tell your people about it. But watch it first. November 24th, The Sound of Christmas on BET Plus. And you can reach out to me on my socials, Booker T Mattison, Mattison, on all social media platforms. I want to hear from you. I do respond to comments. So let me know what you think. And
Okay.
buy The Replacement Wife. Right, look, for authors, the reason why we want our books to be made into movies is, one, we want our characters to live on, but two, we want to get a bump in book sales. Put a
Yeah,
little.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I definitely will be promoting it. I am very familiar with The Replacement Wife. I think it was one of the first books I've ever read by Tiffany L.
Oh,
Ward.
great. Yeah, great.
Yeah, so it's been a minute,
Mhm.
but I think I do have it in my library on my shelf. So we definitely would be watching. I would
Yeah,
love for you.
watch the trailer, the
Yeah,
trailer. Now, if you
I've
if
been
you
I've
like
been
the trailer,
checking those.
you can share that. If you watch the trailer and like it, you can share that. 100%.
Okay. All right. So,
Great deal.
so again, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time. I wish you much success in everything you do.
Thank you.
And I hope to have you back,
Anytime.
sometime soon.
This is a
I would
great.
love to have you and Tiffany back to talk about,
Yes.
the movie, the book, and all of that. Maybe after everybody had a chance. See, the thing with me is that I don't really do great with, the beginning of it because I'm a chatty Cathy. I like to talk about the details and
Right, right,
everything.
right,
So
right.
so I want to have you back so we can, jump in and, talk about the whys and, oh,
Yeah,
did you see that? And how did you do that kind of
yeah.
thing like that. So I think that
100%.
would good. Yeah.
Anytime, you let me know because I enjoyed this a lot. This is one of the better interviews that I've done, and I truly enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Oh, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And I am so honored that you were able to spend some time with me. And like I said, you're doing awesome things, man. So, from the Heart series to the Replacement Wife right here. So, right?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll talk to you. Everybody have a great night. Make sure you watch this movie on Thanksgiving Day. He's already said you can, grab the app. You can get it free for 7 days. If you don't already have it, watch it. Watch some of the other things on there. Keep the app if you like. And if you
Right.
can't, just make sure you watch the Sound of Christmas at least a few times because
That's
we
right.
want to come on back so we can talk about it.
And if
Right.
and watch the trailer. If you like the trailer, share it.
Right. And then, hey, so Regina brought up something really good. So
That's
watch
my
party.
first cuz love.
Hey,
Watch
cuz.
party. Let's
But
do
what
it.
about watch parties? Are you doing a watch party?
Okay, for I have a couple of friends. Like Chuck has a family movie screening night that he does
Okay.
every year. I'm going to beam in and introduce the movie. So yeah, if you have a watch party and you got a crowd at your house or your church, reach out and I'll beam in and introduce the movie. And yeah, we'll keep it popping.
Okay. All right. I will keep that in mind. All right. So everybody have a very very great night. Thank you so much for always joining me in my shenanigans, y'all. I love y'all. Have a great night. Be safe. Have a great holiday. Make sure you smile because sometimes that's the only happiness someone might have.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Take care and have a great night. Bye
Good
bye.
night.